Good morning. My name is Dr. Amy Hager, and I'm the owner of the Night Watch Childcare Center. And today is our third in our series for mental health and parents. And today we're going to be talking about how to bring the fun out in parenting. Parenting can be very stressful. Your children do not come with instruction manuals in between work and bills and running a household. Sometimes the fun parts of parenting can get put to the back burner, but that is going to be the thing that I think can kind of pull you through some of the little more stressful times. So I have the most expert of the most amazing moms, my mom, Jean Sexton. So she's going to be talking with us today. She made my childhood super magical. And she was a single mom for a time period, and even when she got remarried to my stepdad, she still was able to work a full-time job and create all these awesome experiences for me. I never really felt like I was missing out on anything, and I look back at it as an adult, and I'm just in awe of all she did for me. So, love you, Mommy, so much. And so we just have some. I love you so much. So I have some questions for her today, and she's just gonna talk about how she was able to make it work. So, good morning, Mom.
Good morning, sweetheart.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, we'll just go and get jumping in. So what were some of your favorite memories of being a mommy?
Sitting in your room, rocking with you, and reading you stories before you could read, and talking about the characters, and making funny sounds and funny voices for the characters, and singing silly songs, and dancing around the kitchen, and watching you ride your bouncy horse with your dad's police hat and a raggedy slip that you would never give away or never take off. As soon as we got home, you would change into that raggy slip. And just seeing you grow up to learn about the Lord and giving your heart to the Lord, and seeing you grow into such a beautiful woman who also puts her trust in the Lord, because she knows it's not in you, it's not in us, but it's in Him.
Mm-hmm. And what I find in common with all of those things that you just listed is that, yes, the toys cost money and the books cost money, obviously, but it wasn't like you didn't say anything about a $10,000 Disney World vacation or being able to gift me all of these really expensive things. That it was just these memories of like reading the bedtime story right before bed, or just the silliness of me wanting to change into the slip when I came home, and I still like to change into raggedy clothes when I get home, so that has not changed at all. And even raising me, as a Christian, Jesus and love and all that good stuff, like that didn't cost anything. It was just about instilling positive memories, whether it was reading, so that carried on into academics, because you were showing me that like literacy was important, even though I wasn't really thinking that that's what that was. And so the next question I had, because I kind of wanted to tie that in, because I know there was a time where you were a stay-at-home mom, but even when you were working full-time, like we still had moments with the reading and having those like little special times. Why were you so determined to make my childhood really fun?
Because my mom at times had worked 2 jobs, and the day that she was only off on Saturday evening and Sunday. And so every Saturday evening we would go out for a hamburger, and we would go to the movies, or we would take a ride, or she spent her time off with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that she had to work. I understood that. But I understood that her free time, she invested in me. And it didn't cost a lot of money, because we didn't have a lot of money. But that's what I wanted to instill in you, that it's not about the money, it's about the time. It's about the people in your life mattering enough that you invest your time. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't cost money to say, "Good morning, sweetheart."
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't cost money to say, "I love you." It does not cost money to give a hug. It does not cost anything but your time and your commitment. And that's what your children grow on. They're nourished by your love and your attention. Your special quiet times with them, just maybe having a cup of tea, or just having a conversation about maybe a school project or something like that, where they know that they can trust you, and that you're on their team. You're behind them.
And I'll just chime in a little bit. So my parents were divorced. They got divorced when I was fairly young. And my dad, him and I had a wonderful relationship as an adult. When I was a kid, not so much. He was a good grown-up dad, not the best little kid dad. And I remember him trying to throw the more expensive vacations and the more expensive whatever, and it was money and this, that, the other. It didn't matter. And we have a lot of moms at the Night Watch who are single moms, and this will happen where dad will kind of be absent, and then he'll come in with the $100 shoes or the $200 this or the game system or whatever, and the children's attention may get diverted for a minute and get really excited. And so I just want to encourage moms that, like, kids are paying attention. I don't care how young they are. They're keeping track, and they know who has their back. Because yes, my dad could afford to take me on a more expensive vacation maybe in the summertime, but my mom knew what school I went to. My mom knew. She knew what grade I was in. She knew what school I was going to. She knew what my interests were. She knew my friends' names. And that at the end of the day was what was most important. So, all right, my phone keeps going black. Sorry about that. Okay, all right. So the next question, and this may kind of lead into it. I don't know, maybe, Mom. What were some challenges that you had? And then did you ever feel like you weren't doing enough?
I never felt like I was doing enough because I saw you grow. And even when you were stressed, you came to me. It wasn't like you went to somebody else or you turned to something outside the home or whatever. But I also made sure that you had a network of other people where when I had you, and, I made sure that we went to church, and I made sure that you were with people. And I always said this to you: make your friends at church and not necessarily at school, because at school you're going to outgrow them, or they're going to move away, or you're going to be in different classes, and at the end of when you get out of school, your kids are going to grow up or go to different colleges or whatever, and you're not going to have that system. But if you could have a church family, and that's the difference between friends at school and a church family. A church family is going to be there. They're going to go to church with you every week. They're going to go to church with you on Sunday, maybe Sunday night, maybe Wednesday night. And they usually will have classes, like Joy Bells and Bluebells or stuff for the boys. So I tried to make sure that you had a system, and as well, that you were surrounded by other people who would love you as well, and make sure that you knew that you had value. I think that's where a lot of people get tied up, is they don't make their children know that they have value. It may be the way they speak to them. It may be the way society speaks to them. But that's something in your home. You have to make sure that your children know that they have value. They may not get it all right. We're never going to get things right. I mean, I'm sure, I know I can look back at things and being a parent and think, oh, I wish I did that different, or I wish I didn't do that, or maybe I could have handled that different. But at the end of the day, you knew that I loved you and that I had your back and that you had value, which gave you stability to stand on your 2 feet, make wise decisions. I'm sure, I don't want to know, but I'm sure you haven't made all the wisest decisions or decisions that I would think that you would make even as an adult. But if you made a mistake, we worked on it, or we fixed it, or we talked about it. But we had that trust to know that together we were a team. The struggle was not having the money, and sometimes I think, okay, she thinks I'm not doing enough, but then I had to stop myself, because that's looking at me, and it's not about me. It was about you. And I was like, okay, he can afford to take her to Disney. I've never been to Disney. As an adult, I'm 63 years old. I've never been to Disney. And I don't care. But I knew that taking care of you, if I could see you bloom, I was good. So I didn't really struggle with that too much, because you were my heart.
Oh, Mom.
And everything else falls in place.
Mommy, you're making me cry.
That was my goal today.
Was it?
My Saturday morning goal is to make my girl cry.
Well, you're bringing up a lot of good points, and I keep wanting to come back to this point of, like, doesn't cost money. Like, exactly. Taking me to church did not cost money, and this next generation, the one that's younger than me, so they've got the younger kids in elementary school, some of them in middle school, and I hear a lot of like, well, where's the village that's supposed to help me? Where's the village? And it's because the families aren't connected, and that's okay. I'm not saying just because someone's your family does not mean they should be around your kids. That's not what I'm saying.
Exactly.
But I like how you found me other avenues for these, surrogate parents, kind of like my youth leaders. And you talked about Joy Bells earlier, and those of you who don't know what that is, it's kind of like a church Girl Scouts type thing where every week we, do crafts and games and sometimes, do little activities in the community. But my mom, working full-time job, on Wednesdays we'd head over Joann Fabrics and we'd go get stuff and we would do a craft. And it was our tradition every Wednesday. But I know that she could have just like got off work and was like, okay, I'm gonna go and do church with the grown-ups and just have some time to myself. But like, she was like, no, I'm gonna take this extra on, and she always did it until I wasn't in Joy Bells anymore. And I just, again, that it was the time that you spent, and to instill that respect in me, like you said something about like how you talk to your kids at home. And I understand if you grew up with a mom that cussed at you and was loud and yelled and that sort of thing, and there's no judgment. But you also, when you have your kids, and I talk about bringing the fun out in parenting, you have the option now to make it different and make it happy and make it warm. We've got moms at the Night Watch who, when we got them, were spanking their kids, and I'm not judging, but now are trying to find other ways because they're like, I don't like hitting my kids. I don't. It's not about deterring the behavior. I don't like the rift it makes between me and my kids when I have to physically inflict harm on them to punish them. So I see them coming up with other creative ways to change the behavior, and I'm noticing the children are more positive. They're more willing to accept mistakes because they know they're not scared of getting a spanking. It's like, we're going to have a conversation, and what happened and what's a logical consequence. You break your toys, okay, let's clean them up and you're not getting new ones. That's the consequence. I don't need to beat you. You know what I mean? So watching parents do that sort of thing, and I'm excited to see what that's going to do this next generation, where they grew up where it wasn't a fear, it was a respect and logical consequences. So
yes.
yes.
I also think that being a parent is like being the coach on a football team. Okay, your team, your children have to know that they're part of a team. Even if you only have one child, you are a team. And I, as the parent, am the coach. I am the final say. But in that, if you have a problem, and I always told you this, if I make a decision that you don't like, you can come to me and we can talk about it. But you better be respectful, just like you would respect your coach. Now, with that, also, if you as a parent put your kid in timeout, or you say you're punished, you better stand behind it. If that means that you as the adult can't do an activity because your child's punished, then you take the punishment too. You are a team. But also, as the team coach, your players have to have a playbook. They have to know that when you raise your voice doesn't mean you're necessarily mad at them. It just means you're passionate about something, because I am one that raises my voice. I don't cuss. I don't get ugly. I don't say nasty things. But when I get upset or I get frustrated about something, I may yell. I mean, my voice will go up just like it is now. But it's not that I'm mad or anything like that. But with being the coach, your children have to know, okay, I'm part of a team. What's your expectation as a coach for me as a player? Am I expected to clean my room? Am I expected to help with chores? Am I expected to do X, Y, Z? And as a coach, what are you going to do? So if you want to teach your kids as a team, you teach them respect, first off, for the team. So you protect the team. You always protect the team. You know, you'll hear people say, we can fight amongst ourselves, but nobody on the outside is going to come against us. Well, that's how we have to be, where you protect each other. You don't talk about each other to somebody else. You don't talk down to your team members. And if you do things as a team, it makes it fun. I remember cooking dinner, and you would set the table, and we'd dance around between those things, and you would put your feet on top of my feet. We would dance around the kitchen, or we would sing songs, but we did it as a team. If your room was a mess and I picked my battles, you have to learn how to pick your battles. So if your room was a mess and you were doing something else, or you were working on homework, I'll close the door. And I might say, Amy, by Friday, I want this room clean. So there was an expectation. I gave you my expectation. There were rules, and our children thrive when we have rules in place. If it's chaos and they don't know, okay, I don't know what I'm supposed to do today, and I don't know where the wall is to keep me safe, I don't know what the rules are, then they go amok. But when you lay out some parameters, just like the coach does, this is how we make this play, you go here, you carry this is your position. And as a team, it builds the character in your children. It builds trust in your children, because they can trust what you say. Because if you said, if you do this, or if you tell me a lie, you're going to have to write it, I will not lie, 100 times. And you put the paper on the table, and they sit there till they write 100 sentences, I will not tell you a lie, Mommy. The next time they go to do it, they're going to think about that. Now, if whatever that means in your family, just come up with some kind of game plan. Let them know that, and their part in the team is absolutely essential. That you can't do it without them. Mm-hmm. And with that, it builds self-esteem, because then you can say, oh, and when you do that, you can affirm in them, not necessarily they did a good job, because what happens if they didn't do a good job? Then you don't praise them. But the fact that their character is building, affirm their character. Oh my goodness, you did. I saw you do that for your sister. Mm-hmm. I saw you take the laundry into your sister's room. That was awesome. Thank you so much. Because then the next time they're going to say, that really made Mommy happy. I'm going to do it again. So our children want to please their parents. Mm-hmm. But sometimes they just don't know the parameters. They don't know the rules. So come up with a game plan.
Yeah. And I like your idea of like you being the coach, and that this idea of like nobody outside of the team is going to like bash us. That's why I think not only having a village to help you raise your kids, but also have a support system in place for yourself. Because what we don't want to do is you get frustrated with your kids and then you go gossip really to your friends, to other family members of like, guess what so-and-so did, because it's not their business. And right. Then all it takes is one good family, cookout for somebody to say, oh, didn't so-and-so fail or get kicked off the team or did somebody get suspended? You know what I mean? It only takes one time for you to tell somebody in the family your kid's business. And then they think that it can go on the family newsletter and everybody knows about it. And that can be very detrimental to your kids. It's embarrassing. Like, I don't care what the rationale is. It's not okay to embarrass your kids, so having a conversation within the team is probably best. And then get a support system that that's not going to happen with. So whether it's a parenting coach, whether it's just truly somebody you can confide in, whether you have to be careful about who you vent to. I guess that's where I'm going with, not just with your kids, but really just with, your husband, wife, whatever. Like, you just don't want to tell everybody your business, because
I always vent to God.
And
He has a shoulder, and He never tells anything.
He is not going to tell anybody's information.
An encourager. He is the lifter up of our heads, that's for sure.
And the other thing about, coaches, like, they study their players. And so you really have to become the expert in your parenting. Even with, you and I, like, there was a time where I got spanked. And then there was a time when I got into high school where you started taking my radio from me. And that's when it was the sting of like, oh, I need to clean my room. Like, oh, like because you knew every night I was sitting with my headphones, listening to my music a lot later than I should have been. But, you let me, and it is what it is. But you knew that because you paid attention to me. You can't just let your kids go in the room and, it's whatever they want to do. You need to know what is going to, like, you have to study them in order to know what's going to help curb that behavior.
Yes.
So I'll just leave that at that. That was
in that team building, you also teach especially if you have more than one child. Since I only had one child, I can only speak from one experience. And I know every child is different. So when a player knows that they're a valuable part of that team, there's no jealousy, animosity. They're not fighting amongst themselves for mommy's attention.
Mm-hmm.
And mom also knows the weaknesses and the strengths of each player. So you do not put somebody who can't throw in as the quarterback. But if you have somebody that's a good reader, they may help a student, a sibling that maybe is dyslexic. So maybe reads homework to them, or and they understand, they get a feeling for how they can help their sibling rather than tear them apart because they're jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Because now mommy's reading to them, and I don't get any time with mommy. So it's when you teach them a team principle, it's about protecting the team and making the team stronger. Because if the team has the weakest link, it's going to show.
Mm-hmm. I think you bring up some good points there about, well, one, making sure that you're trying to spend individual time so there's not that competition, but then also communicating that if we're not able to have individual time, this is why, and this is what's going to happen instead. It's going to be a group thing or whatever. But the other thing, parents, is I want you to be, with this information can be very valuable, is that when the teacher calls and says your kid's acting up or they're not progressing, they need feedback. They need strategies. I was a school teacher for 14 years, and we've been running the Childcare Center for 4 years, and I have to go to parents and say, what's working? Your kid's not going to bed, your kid's this, that, and the other, they're tearing up toys, and we have to come together and collaborate. And then the same, I'll get phone calls and say, they're having trouble in school, this, that, the other. And so me and mom will sit and we'll come up with a list of strategies, because I know the school wants that. They may give this vibe that they don't really want parents, involved in the team meetings, but if you show up with a list of things that have worked, that's going to make their job a lot easier. Because then now, and you're also part of the conversation. So identifying the things that motivate the kids, encourage the kids. So if you know that they like to read or that they like to help, that's a huge deal. Saying, hey, you know what? He acts up at home too, but if I give him jobs to do, it keeps him out of trouble or keeps him focused, or it's opportunities for him to be successful, where he may not do well in math because of X, Y, and Z, but he's really good at helping. So if we can get him to help a little bit of math, and then follow up with another activity for him to be successful, even if it's just sharpening the pencils at the end of class, that's going to boost that self-esteem, and he's not always going to tie math to a negative, failure.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Okay.
There's also a lot of games you could play. You could add in that, maybe some math games at home. Yeah. You can, those are things like when you were asking me about the struggles about being a single mom. Money was one of them. Juggling time was one of them. But money part, we played cards, or we played games, and we watched, if you had a certain show that you liked to watch, I don't know if it was Alf or something like that, I remember, we maybe make popcorn and snuggle up on the couch, and I made that time, whatever your TV show was that you liked to watch, that would be our snuggle time on the couch. And, those are things that you can do with your children that teach them time together, and that their time that they are important, and what they like is important. But then also with playing the games, it taught you, because you did not like to lose. So sometimes I made sure that you lost on purpose, so you could work through that little temper tantrum that I don't want to play anymore because it's not fun. And so I might make you lose 10 times in a row. And then I might let you win 10 times in a row. Or sometimes you just might beat me. So there were character lessons learned in there. But we did math stuff. We did reading stuff. Things that we at home to reinforce what you were learning in school as well.
Yeah. I like the idea of bringing up the board games. I've definitely noticed a difference. You got kids, and I was just talking to my husband about this, about the video games now, where video games when I were growing up, like, you lost, and you could get all the way to level 8 on Mario, and if you ran out of lives, you had to start all the way from the beginning. Or if the power went out, or somebody unplugged something, and it was it, and you could get upset, but these kids now, you take their video games, and they are, like, tearing up the house. Like, they are having, like, full-blown meltdowns. They don't know how to wait their turn. They don't know how to just accept no, or that they lost, or that, like, there's no patience being developed at all. And that's why I'm a big fan of board games. I'm a big fan of having to you just gotta wait your turn. That's it. You just gotta wait your turn. We're not all playing at the same time. That not everybody's a winner. Like,
Right.
these are just lessons you have to learn. When you go to work, not everybody's gonna be the top earner, the top whatever. Like, and that's okay. And
you're not gonna be the most popular every place you go.
You're not.
And you're not gonna get a participation ribbon.
You're not. So and that is all okay. It builds character. It's
exactly.
fine. Yeah. I want to bring this in because I don't know where we'll fit in with the questions, but in regards to some of the challenges, I know we talked about like behavior and academics, but I just want to talk about like Christmas. My Christmases were always so magical, and just to share a little bit about what my mom would do. So, and maybe I'm wrong. Just tell me if I'm wrong with my perception of this. I always was under the assumption that Santa brought me one present. Like, I would get to pick out one thing, and there might be accessories that went along with that one thing, but I knew that I could ask for that one doll baby. I grew up in late 80s, 90s, so it was Baby Alive and Water Baby and Cabbage Patches, and there was that one doll baby. I'd always want one for Christmas. And so as Christmas would come, there'd be presents under the tree, and those were for mommy. But then Christmas morning, there'd be like the ta-da, and my mom would take everything out of the wrappers, out of Santa's presents were not wrapped, and they didn't come in boxes. They were just already ready to go, where there was a kitchen set or the crib and the high chair, and my mom would, it looked like out of a movie. And I don't know how much all that stuff cost, but I know that the production value was like through the roof, and my Christmas mornings were always so magical. And Mom, I just want you to, what was your mindset with all of that?
Well, because I was a single mom, and at times I made $11 a month more than the rent. Hard to stretch $11 over a month, but God was good. But I got child support. Wasn't that much money, but God was good. God was good. God's always good. But I would maybe take $1 or $2, and in my head, it's like, Christmas is coming. It may be January, but Christmas is coming. And so I would put, $2 or $3 away every month or every week if I could, and and then as Christmas came, I had a little bit of money, and I would, start fishing. Okay, what do you want for Christmas? What are you going to tell Santa? And so then I would make sure that I had the money, if it was only that thing, but somehow God always gave me some kind of a little bonus from work just before Christmas. And so, I gave the one thing that you had, and then the rest of the presents may have been socks or underwear, or they weren't anything spectacular, but God always brought me through. So that's what it was. Yeah. I said anything about Molly.
Well, and I wanted you to share all that because, this next generation, even mine and then the next after, they're growing up in the Instagram, social media version of what holidays are supposed to look like. And you've got people posting, and they've got mountains of toys, and kids are like, well, why did Santa bring that kid all these toys, and I only got one? And so I feel like we were kind of sheltered from some of that, fortunately, because we didn't have social media to tell us constantly what we're doing wrong. So I just wanted you to share, that piece, and I wanted to share my experience of it. Is you do not have to compete with what's going on in social media. That making things magical, whether it's setting it up in the morning before Santa gets there, or having special traditions, even leaving the cookies out and the carrots out for the reindeer, just and Mom, writing me little notes. Like, I feel like Santa and the Easter Bunny had two different handwritings, and they would always leave me notes, and that doesn't cost anything, Moms. Like, that's the stuff that doesn't cost anything. I had a tooth pillow for when I would lose teeth. It was a little pillow that hung on my door, and I thought everybody had those. And I don't know how much a tooth pillow cost, but it was just something extra special that I had that, again, cost you $1 or whatever. I don't know what the going rate is for a tooth, but that just taking some time to plan it out ahead of time. And my mom's a planner, and her talking about in January, she's already starting to brainstorm and think about what Christmas is going to look like, that you do not have to spend the rent money to make your children happy so that they get, 100 presents under the tree. That is not what it has to be. It can be that Christmas Eve, you're going to load up the car and get some hot chocolate and go look at Christmas lights, and then come home and watch Christmas movies so you guys fall asleep, and then wake up, Santa's been here and he's left notes for everybody, a scavenger hunt around the house. I remember we've done that a couple times where Christmas was going to be light, and so we had to get creative, and we're making little puzzles and scavenger hunts around the house to hide a couple of presents. So there's definitely other ways that you can do it. Kids love you, and mom said that earlier, that they wanna please you, they love you. And so it's not about a dollar sign. I don't care what their father says. Or the absentee parent that kind of swishes in on occasion. Like, they love you, and you can make things magical without, feeling financially stressed.
I think that with all of the social media, we are too quick to compare what we have to what everybody else has. And then we look at what we have as lack.
Mm-hmm.
God says he's going to give us what we need for today. But we got to stop looking over the fence, because that's, I want to say, the enemy. The enemy will tear us apart, because then he puts in our head, well, why is God blessing them? Why is God not blessing me?
Mm-hmm.
But you have 3 beautiful children, and they don't have any children.
Right.
They've been trying to have a child for 10 years. So they would give all the stuff,
mm-hmm.
per se, to have one of your children. So look at the blessings that you have in front of you. Turn off the social media. To me, it's just a trick of the enemy. It makes you feel like you're nothing, and that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
You are created and fashioned by God's hand, and he made you for a purpose. Look for that purpose. Ask him for that purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And grow yourself. Be confident in what God gave you. Be confident in the gifts that God gave you. Nurture those gifts as a parent. Nurture those gifts. Because when you realize the value that God has for you, it is in you, how he created you with value. You're valuable to God.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to pass that on to your children. Stop looking at social media. Nobody out there pays your bills.
That's right.
Nobody out there cooks your dinner or washes your clothes. Nobody out there really cares about you.
Mm-hmm.
You could have 1 million friends on Facebook, and not one of them really knows your name.
You go to the hospital and no one's coming to see you.
Nobody's there at 3 o'clock in the morning when your child's throwing up,
mm-hmm.
and you're cleaning up diarrhea off the floor or vomit out of the bed. Nobody's. The ones that are important in your everyday thing are the people that are involved in your life every day. And that's what you have to worry about. That's what you have to nurture. Don't worry about what social media says or your Facebook people will say. Turn them off.
Mm-hmm.
Turn off the voices.
It's like that mirror at the fun house, where it's just distorted of what you think it's supposed to be. And it is not. I mean, I'm all for the little social media, jokes and videos and things like that. But as a reflection of what you're supposed to be doing with your life and how you're supposed to be with your kids and the type of person you're supposed to be, it is distorted. Pastor on Sunday was talking about how, like, for every message God has, the devil from the day one has been sending you opposite messages. And I feel like there's the world, the real world, and then there's the social media world. And that's it. I'm not saying everything on social media is evil. That's not what I'm saying.
No, I'm not
but what I'm
that.
saying is that, like, what's true versus what's a lie a lot of times. And so especially when it comes to your value as a parent, I was reading some articles, especially during the pandemic. We had a lot of new parents. They were not able to go out and see other parents and maybe not go to the appointments, whatever it was, but being super isolated and just constantly on social media, and how it was just increasing anxiety and depression. Postpartum depression was like going through the roof, because it's like, I'm doing everything wrong, and I'm Googling, and I'm doing everything wrong. You're not doing everything wrong. You're not. Just turn it off. You're fine.
Because, I mean, if you look at, I would say 95% of society, they'll be sitting at a restaurant eating, or sitting at a restaurant, and the whole family is on a different phone. They're completely disconnected from the family in front of them. But they're out there looking on the phone somewhere, or they're playing a game. And instead of, we would go to pizza, we'd take a deck of cards. And while we were waiting for our pizza, we'd play a card game. Where now you see everybody handing their kid a phone to play a game. Well, you've disconnected that child from the team.
Mm-hmm. And some of the restaurants even have the tablets at the tables, like Olive
Oh,
Garden.
yes. Yes, Olive Garden. You can go and pay and play
And
games
play
on the
games.
table.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I just think that we need to turn social media off, phones off for a while. Just have no phone zone.
Yeah, and I would
in
even
your home
argue
for
that before
periods of
social
time.
media, TV was doing a lot of that stuff too.
Mhm.
But I feel like sometimes we blur what's real and what's fake when it comes to social media. And then I think that that's happening a little bit more on TV because, I mean, the majority of TV now is just reality TV, and even calling it
Yes.
reality TV is it's not real. But anyway, so the next question I had was, and you may have covered some of this, is how did you overcome the self-doubt or any kind of feelings of inadequacy? Or what would you recommend for someone who feels like they're not doing enough fun stuff with their kids? How would you encourage any of our moms?
Make it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids are not wild. You know, they may be wild for a second, but at the end of the day, what are they wild by? Mommy tucked me in tonight, read me a bedtime story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and she gave me a kiss. And in the morning, when I got ready for work, she said, "Come on, baby girl, get up. It's time to go to school. Come on, let me brush your hair." You know, and just having that time. "Oh, you look beautiful today. Let me see. Oh, that's a pretty dress." And then when you opened your lunch, there was a note in there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that you'll remember for the rest of your life. Every time you open a lunchbox.
Yep.
every time you you think about going to the zoo or a field trip or whatever, that mommy was there. Mommy went on every field trip.
Every field trip.
Every field trip. I made plans at work. If you had a field trip coming up, I would take a vacation day. And that would make that. Every birthday, I made sure I had a vacation day I could take. And we may have done something that didn't cost a lot of money. You know, I think we did one big trip. We went to Pennsylvania and we stayed at a hotel and swam in the pool and went to Hershey Park.
Yes.
Our one big trip.
Yes, and that trip was so fun. As a kid, Hershey Park was fun. Don't get me wrong. But my mom also took me to Kings Dominion and that kind of stuff too. So I had gone to parks before. But the part that stood out to me was night swimming, because we went swimming after it was dark, right? And the other was having breakfast from the vending machine on the bed. I thought that was the coolest thing.
But those were simple things.
Yeah, very simple things, and I had so much fun.
I remember going to the beach on your birthday.
Mm-hmm.
We just went down to the local beach, and we had a picnic.
I remember that. It was my 9th birthday, and we went to the movies.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And I fell asleep at the movies.
I bet. But it's one of my most memorable. And I at the center, it was like a photo album that I guess I was like writing like a journal, and I was putting them in the little sleeves, and I wrote about that day, and I still have it. But and I love that you gave those examples. Because at the Night Watch, we're on the Eastern Shore of Maryland, and there's tons of beaches around here. There's free parks and things like that. And our moms work nights. So, to go on field trips, that's the beauty of it all. Like, I love that a lot of our moms are able to go to field day and go to field trips, and then take their kids to the beach and stuff on a warm day instead of, having to go to work. So that's cool, too. And I love the idea of just keeping it simple. And I think this goes back to the question we had before about things on social media, that, like, it doesn't have to be this hype, that taking your kids to the beach, taking them on a late night, Christmas, go look at Christmas lights run, just something fun. Like, hey, let's go get some snacks and do a little picnic on the floor and watch a movie. When we're working with parents or children that are having trouble maybe at their day school and at home, that's something we always start with, is like, well, what about a movie night? And we talk about it with the kids, and what kind of snacks do you want to have there? What movie are you gonna watch? And to watch the mom say, they're really excited about it. Like, we have the snacks, they're sitting, and they know if they have a good week, we're gonna watch the movie, and they're really excited about it. And at the center, we're reinforcing that, whether it's coloring sheets or other activities to kind of get them ready for the movie. But it doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It's just about time And again, if you fall asleep on the couch, it is what it is. But the fact that they were just excited to do something with you, you'd be surprised. Spending time with mommy that's super high on the list of things that they want to do.
I mean, you can put a blanket over top some chairs and have a camp out, a tent.
Yeah.
Put some snacks inside and have a sleepover under the tent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just being creative and, you know, play hide and go seek. That costs nothing.
Nothing.
Or red light, green light, or, you know, and maybe your moms don't know what those games are, but if they want to know, have them call me. You know, those don't cost anything. They're just games you can play. You can play them in the house. You can play them outside. But it's just playing with your children.
Mm-hmm.
Spending that time. That's what they're going to remember.
Yep. Yeah.
And if you come from a house who didn't say positive things to you, figure out and make a conscious effort to break those chains. Don't carry them on.
Mm-hmm.
Just say, I didn't like it when my mom yelled at me, or I didn't like when my mom, you know, said ugly things to me. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to change it. I want to make positive changes in my life. So think about the things that, when you were growing up, that did not sit well with you and did not make you feel valued, and change those. Don't carry them on. Don't carry that ugly bucket with you. But throw it away and consciously make efforts, because if whatever you teach your children, they're going to carry on as well.
Yeah. And one of the things that I kind of want to loop school in here with this, because you were also really good at this, was the last minute projects. I don't know what it is about kids. We just like, oh, tomorrow I have something due, and I always think about that ocean floor that you helped me make. So when I was in high school, guys, I might have had a job at this point, and the fact that I could not remember when things were due, and I tell my mom I'm in an oceanography class, and I'm like, I have to do an ocean floor project, and it's due tomorrow, and you know, it was
like 9 o'clock.
Yeah, it wasn't like we could just. Oh, I guess we could have went to Walmart, but it doesn't matter. Mom goes, and she was notorious for pulling out the gift boxes, shoe boxes. For some reason, she always had them like ready. I guess it was just because she knew me. And she pulls out all the seasonings and spices out of the cabinet. It's stuff.
Flour.
Everything. She made the ocean floor and just fixed everything up. And we put some saran wrap on it. And I take it to school the next day. And I noticed nobody else has them because it was due next week. But nonetheless, Mom was great at it. She knew how to make the Play-Doh. We made remember we made the Dolly Parton dress for my Dolly Parton book report.
Yeah.
We made a log cabin. I remember that one. And you made like little like bowls and food and everything on the table. I think we were learning about pioneers or something. But yeah. Because the memory that I have is I was not the kid that showed up with nothing. I was not the kid that showed up and, you know, it was clear that I didn't have any help and support. And I get if you have to work a bunch and you're not able to, like, help your kids with projects. But, again, it goes back to being the expert on your kid. If you know that you're not available for last-minute stuff because you work nights, then it's important that you are studying your kids and you guys get in a habit so you know, so you can prepare, so that your kid can be the one that showed up with the awesome project because you guys planned ahead of time. And it doesn't need to be stressful. It's just about being prepared. And I think that you were always, like, I didn't even think that, well, maybe she keeps a shoebox on hand just for school projects. And maybe you did. I don't know. But I always felt like when I had something due, like, I could count on Mom. She was going to have some way to make it work, and you always just made it work. Whatever it was, you're my MacGyver mommy, and you.
I wear the MacGyver mommy.
You were awesome.
Very honor.
Yeah, and I like, because I remember there were kids, especially in elementary school, that came to school and like their clothes were kind of disheveled. They would be falling asleep in class. Free lunch was not a popular thing when I was in high school. There was probably maybe 2 or 3 of them that got the free lunch and reduced lunch. Like, you clearly knew which kids those were, because I don't know if they had a number or whatever. But, like, you know, as an adult, I look back and it's not pity, but it's just like, I don't want my kid to be that kid at school where they don't have what they need, and it's clear that nobody got them up and got them dressed and fed them breakfast, and for whatever the reason is, like, I never felt like that. I always felt like my mom was there. My mom was there for parent conferences. You even changed your lunch so you could pick me up from school, and we would watch Guiding Light together. Like, these were all these things. Like, you made me, you made me the focus in the center. And I thank you so much.
There's no shame in not having a lot of money. But there is shame when you don't invest what you have.
Right.
And so as a parent, if your child has clothes, they need to be clean and they need to be pressed, or they need to be at least folded nicely so that they don't look like they were balled up in a ball and you sent your kid last minute to school. You wouldn't go to work like that. You wouldn't go out someplace like that.
Right.
So the pride that you take in your children is a reflection on you. So I never wanted, and me, I'm a reflection of my mom. And my mom was a reflection of her mom. I'm sure I never got to meet my grandmother. But I didn't want to bring my mom shame. So in that fact, I made sure that I did the best that I could do with you. Did you have name brand clothes? Absolutely not. Do I wear name brand clothes? Even now? No. I could probably afford them now, but I don't wear name brand clothes. I don't care. I don't even know what a name brand clothes is. So even though I'm in the garment industry, I could care less. If I like it, I like it. If it fits, I'll wear it. But if I don't care whose name's on it. So I think a lot of people get tied up in, I don't have designer, or I'm going to spend all my money on this one designer thing. I'd rather have 15 things that are not designer than having one that is a designer. So now I have 15 things to choose from. But I think that the value that we put in our children, we forget is a reflection on us. And so that's important. You know, your children, how they grow and how they are, you know, how you formed them and raised them is a reflection on you. So take pride in that. Take pride in your children. You know, see them grow, see them, you know, and nurture them.
Yeah. And I like the word, like you brought up the word pride a couple times. And like, this was the late 80s. I don't know what happened to these kids. Like the two that I can think about, I know didn't finish high school with me. So I don't know if they moved, they dropped out. I don't know. And I know all these additional external factors can play into kids not finishing high school and things like that. But if it's pride that's keeping you from asking for help, that's another conversation you need to have with yourself. Because if you're not able to make sure your kids have clean clothes, I know when I was a school teacher, we'll wash them. Bring them. We'll wash your clothes for you. And even at the night watch, if kids have accidents or whatever, like, we're going to wash the clothes. I'm not putting more stress on parents, because some people don't have washer and dryers. Or if a kid comes and they've got stuff all down the front of them from the day, hey, let's get you a fresh shirt. There's no judgment. We're just going to wash the clothes and then just keep it moving.
Right.
But yeah.
I mean, even at some point, I didn't have a washer and dryer. Do you remember me washing clothes? And you standing in the bathtub, and we would walk around on the clothes.
Yeah, and we hang them up in that one. Yeah,
we hang them
up.
We hang them up to dry, and then I ironed them. But we washed them in the bathtub. So when I say things, it's not that I haven't walked in those shoes. I have.
Yeah.
But I made sure that your clothes were clean.
Exactly. Right.
Whatever it took.
Exactly. And I just even remember just being younger and you having these conversations. So like even if your kids are younger, they're picking up on things. So I remember you saying things like, we may not have money, but that doesn't mean we can't be clean.
Right.
Like, even though we're renting a home, like, that was something you always instilled in me. Like, I understand we're renting, but we're going to leave this place cleaner than we found it. We're going to take care of the yard. We're going to make sure the walls are clean. We're going to vacuum. We're going to take care of our stuff. And even as an adult, I notice I hold on to things a lot longer. Like, I have a washer and dryer that are probably 12 years old. Why? Because I take care of them. Because my mom taught me that you take care of your stuff so you don't have to buy new stuff. You know, the couches. My whole life, I think you've had, what, three sets of living room furniture? And I'm 40. The brown set we had at Dad's. And I don't even, did we bring those with us?
We sold them to somebody else before we bought this house.
Okay.
We were renting, and there was no room for the furniture.
Right. And then we had Tim's couches when you guys got married. Those ones that were in the basement.
Yes.
Then you had two sets in the upstairs. No, this is the third set you have in the living room.
In
now,
the
right?
living room, the set that I just sold or gave away.
Yeah.
We had that for 25 years.
Yeah.
And I just bought.
Right, because
I just bought a new one.
Yeah, because you take care of stuff. But that was always something. And even the name brand clothes, like, I never felt like I was missing out. And I don't even remember really getting teased But I also think that's of who you had around me in my circle, that I had, good church friends, and,
Yeah.
I don't know, I just always had really good friends that, like, weren't picking on me and teasing me. But that all goes back to respecting and instilling respect in your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Even as an
But
adult,
even if somebody said to me, "Oh, those aren't name brand clothes," I'd say, "So what?"
so what?
Because I had confidence that it didn't matter what clothes I have on.
Yeah,
What matters is my character. How do I carry myself? Not what clothes I'm carrying.
exactly.
Those clothes will change every day. But what am I carrying? You know.
Yeah, but yeah, I love the respect piece, because yes, it's a so what, but it's a so what because that doesn't define my value.
Exactly.
So then we'll just bring it to the last question: is what is your most proud moment as a mom, and why?
My most proud moment is when I watched my baby girl reach out to help other people. And I've carried on my mommy's legacy because that's how my mom taught me. Always look for ways to help someone else in need. You may not have the money to do it, but you can always be an encouragement. If they're struggling with something, speak over them, speak life over them, speak love over them, speak compassion over them. Let them know they're not in the fight alone. You may not be able to fix it, but it's not our job to fix.
Mm-hmm.
Our job is to encourage and to uplift them and possibly give them new tools to use, or just be a shoulder. Even if it's just stopping by somebody's house, or washing their dishes or washing their clothes, or just maybe say, you know what, let me take your kids to McDonald's for a while, and take a bubble bath or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing I was thinking about is you can take your kids places and not spend a lot of money. Like I used when I was doing daycare, I would take the kids to McDonald's, and they play, and we buy. I might buy them ice cream. It wasn't that much money, or whatever. That would be a field trip, so it didn't cost me a lot of money, but that was something you could do that was cheap. But anything that you can do to help someone, whether it's financially, whether it's spiritually, whether it's just emotionally, whether it's just putting your time in. Your time is valuable, and when you learn as a parent that your time is valuable, not for you. God didn't give you your time for you. If you will invest your time in your children, in other people that God puts in your life, God takes care of us. If we will do what He asks us to do, He takes care of us. He'll give us opportunities of just to sleep in.
Right.
Your kid may sleep till 12 o'clock, and you're like, whoa, he's normally up at 6. And you get to sleep in. Or you can have where you get up in the morning and your kids are in their room playing, and they're fine, and you can have a cup of tea. Or you can just have a couple minutes, to just relax, or whatever. But also with going back to the teamwork, if your children have an expectation and they know what the rules are, you can carve out 20 minutes that mommy gets to have a cup of coffee, and we have to go in our room, or we have to, we're going to go brush our teeth, we're going to go put our pajamas on, mommy's going to have 20 minutes just to sit and relax, put cucumbers on her eyes, whatever, and we're going to be quiet. But when your children know that, because you've already spent time with them, you've given them what they need, and that now as a team, we're going to give mommy what she needs. It works out, So all of that is part of it. It's a whole package. But my most proud is my daughter, my baby girl. She is my heart. She is my heart, and when I see her bloom, and I see her blossom, and I see her reach out to help other people, that makes me so proud.
Oh, Mom, you make me cry again. I love you.
I love you too. My mama used to always, even when I was older. Now my mom passed away when I was 37, but she would always hug me, and not a quick hug. My mom would hug me for like 5 minutes.
Is that where you get it from?
That's where I get it from. So when my daughter comes home, she gets a good long hug. But he always told me, "You'll always be my baby."
That's right.
No matter how old you get. And that's what I remember. That my mom always instilled in me. You'll always be my baby. And that's what we need to instill in our children. They're always going to be part of us. They're always going to be important to us. They're always going to be our heart. No matter how big they get, no matter where they land as far as where they live or what they do for a job, none of that matters. It's you as an individual, as my child, matters. Not what you accomplish or what you don't accomplish, because in that there's value in their failure or value in their success, not value in them. So just instill that into them, that they are loved beyond measure, no matter what, and that they have value, and in that they'll grow. And make sure you take them to church. That's the most important. That's like the fertilizer. So we can plant the seed and we can water it, but God gives the increase. So make sure that they have that tool. The most important tool you'll ever teach them is the love of Jesus.
Good. And I just want to loop back to, and then we'll wrap this up because my computer's about to die. But like, it's kind of like a return on your investment. So you were saying, if you're spending time with the kids, then in the more, they may be more willing to give you that, 20 minutes to go take a hot bath. So that's like the more immediate, but I also want parents to be thinking about long term, because you instilled those things in me. At 19, I was ready to leave and go off and start my life. And I know that was hard on you.
I wasn't ready to.
I know you weren't, but that's a testament to how good of a mom you were. That I didn't go off to college in that wild. When I got to college and I saw how these kids were acting, I was like, have you never been left alone before? Do you not know how? They didn't know what to do with their money. They didn't know how to cook food. They didn't know how to do their laundry. And I'm like, who raised you all? They're throwing furniture out in the front yard and breaking things. And I'm like, oh, like I couldn't wait to get out of that housing place. But
that's a respect thing.
It's a respect thing.
They didn't respect somebody else's property.
But again, that goes back to, where was the respect? Like, why do you think that that's okay? That you can come here and tear this stuff up? But anyway, I just say all that to say is that, you invested a lot of time and energy in me and love and all that sort of thing into now, and this isn't a toot my own horn thing, but it's going to come back. Like, your kids are extensions of you, like you were saying. And so, it's not about selflessly pouring everything into them and like running your tank empty. That's why it is important to have God, because he fills your cup and then you're able to pour into your kids. But like, them being extensions of you, and that like they're going to grow and thrive because of what you're able to establish. And then when kids are getting older and they're doing all of these, and I'm not saying I don't make bad choices. That's not what I'm saying at all. But making, how do I want to say, not making any good choices. Not having any kind of success. Like, let's take a look back at that foundation. So, it's stressful now, and it's a lot now to put out in this investment. But just like in business, just like in nature, just like anything, you have to plan it, and then you got to nurture it, and you just got to trust that God is going to make it grow, just like everything else. And you got to just trust and pray over your kids. And then that also goes back to the environment and what you're saying over your kids and how you're speaking with your kids and all of that good stuff. So, but anyway.
Now, if you, let's go throw this one out. If you were not raised in church and you don't have a church family or you don't have a relationship with God, you might not understand that. But it's never too late to start. Because God is standing there at this moment saying, I'm right here. All your struggles you're trying to do by yourself, when I have the answer to everything you need. Sometimes we think the answer is money, or we think the answer is time for myself, or the answer is more stuff, or if I have a man in my in my life, or I have a this, or I have a that, and God says, I'm everything that you need. But we run from that because we think we can fix it. And then when we can't fix it, then we feel defeated. But God says, turn around to me. Come to me. So we will put our effort in a relationship with God. He fills us and he gives us wisdom. He gives us a foundation and he fills us so that we can fill our children.
Mm-hmm.
But we try to fill our children with stuff that we don't have because we haven't received it.
Mm-hmm.
We do get drained and we don't have the tools and we will feel inadequate because we're trying to do it on ourselves. When God did not create us to be alone, he created us to be in a relationship with him. So when we can pull from him, because he has every resource we need. He has the wisdom, he has the love, he has the patience, he has everything that we need to instill in our children to help them to grow. But in that process, he helps us to grow as well. So those are some tools that you can go back on. And if, like I said, if you're not a Christian or if you're not grown up in a church family or you're not involved in church or you don't have a relationship with the Lord, start today. And then you can, and then bring that to the table as part of the team. You know, we were trying to do it all wrong, and it's not working. So we're going to try something else. We're gonna start going to church, and your children will be all on board. If everything's not going right and you want to try something different, they'll be all excited about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know,
and I just want to pepper in there that, like, even if you had a bad experience with church growing up, because not all churches are amazing, just remember it's not about the church. It's about that relationship with God and tapping into that, because he is going to be the one that's going to fill your cup. You cannot, because like Mom was saying, like, you're going to try to fill it with superficial stuff. You are going to recognize that there is a hole, especially if you're, single. Sorry, it was a fly. Especially if you're in a single mom position. Just from a standpoint of, it took two people to make this one baby, and half of them is gone. You feel that bond you have with your kids. That is an energetic, emotional, physical bond that is never going to go anywhere. That's why you are crying hysterically when you drop your kids off at daycare, or you have to go back to work after 6 weeks. 6 weeks is not long enough. I don't care what anybody says. That's not long enough to go drop your baby off. That baby is part of you. It's been with you for 9 months, and someone just says, no, you have to go leave it with a stranger. Like, I can't even imagine. But imagine the young one that has half of his person. We've got some kids at the night watch where dad is out in the wind somewhere. Have no idea. I can only imagine the hole that is leaving in that child's heart. And to try to fill it with toys, medication, and I'm not judging. You got to give your kid what you got to give them. But trying to fill it with all of these worldly things, and you're wondering why it's not working. You're trying to fill your hole in your heart from maybe making a baby with somebody who broke your heart. Like, whatever it is, you're trying to fill it with friends, work, more work, a second job, just to stay busy. And you're gonna run yourself ragged, because these are all worldly things, and we need a supernatural intervention to break up generational curses, to instill that your children are going to be healthy and thriving and happy and go off and do amazing things that you want them to do.
Yes.
So
because I was one of those children whose dad was out in the wind.
Mm-hmm.
So I if I didn't have Jesus, I would probably have done some crazy things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just we have something's missing, and so we want to fill it. And when you don't have, like, nothing on this earth is going to fill it. It's just not. It may ease a symptom, but it's not going to treat the hole in your heart. So God is the ultimate co-parent. So just, finding that connection. And again, if you had a bad relationship with church, if it was toxic for you, I understand. Try another one.
Church is filled with hurting people.
It's filled with people. It's run by people. So it is what it is. But that can't be a reason why you're gonna cut, God off. Because at the end of the day, and again, that's what seems to work with our moms. Some moms, it's just kind of business. But I've got some moms who I would call friends now, who have called me late nights and they vent and things like that, and they need that. But it always comes back to a God conversation of, like, I need to lean on him because he's the only one I can count on. He is the only one that's going to be there. And even when moms say, thank God I found you, Night Watch. Thank God I found you. You know what I mean? Like, but it's God's center. God gave me this idea, and God has kept us open during a pandemic through, various other things that you know, other centers may have shut down, but like God kept us open, and I know it's because He wants us to be a beacon to help moms, to help single parents. We got a couple single dads too that are in the same boat. So I just want to say single moms. We got a lot of single dads, and
single parent doesn't necessarily mean the mom.
I know.
But the team coach can be a man or a woman.
Exactly.
Coach is the coach.
So we're just so thankful that that we're able to offer that service. Not just about watching kids, but it's about other things and just helping moms with mental health and just taking care of themselves, filling their cup up so that they can go on and just be these awesome moms, and you know, just we can work together to have these awesome kids. And I'm very thankful and grateful.
Now I have a question for you.
Yes.
What is your favorite childhood memory?
The Christmases, I kind of would pile those together. Because they were just always so exciting. Just like coming. Oh, you know what it is? Okay. When we lived in Crownsville, when you made that attic for me.
Oh.
That was my favorite time, was when we lived at that house, because we had that parking lot out front, and I would ride my bike every day, and I was doing all kinds of up on the handlebars. Like I wish I still rode my bike today, because I had so much fun. I'd be up on the handlebars having a good time. And then we had an attic, and my mom set this attic up. And I mean, I had a kitchen, I had the little baby crib, and it was like a little apartment upstairs for me to play with all my toys. I could only play up there like fall, winter, and spring. In the summer it would get too hot, but that's probably one of my favorites. You just making just magical spaces for me to play. Because sometimes, like, I guess it doesn't matter now, I'm out of school. We didn't typically live in my school's area, because my mom just always wanted me to go to the same elementary school, so she'd always, like, would drive, didn't matter how far we had to go, so I could get on the bus at my grandma's and go to the same school all the way through high school. So I didn't have, like, neighborhood kids that could come over and play. I'd have church friends that could come over, but, like, not during the week and things like that. So, and then me being an only child, my mom just... It didn't matter. Like, I just feel like I didn't miss out on anything at all. I feel like I had a really fun childhood. I don't ever feel like I was missing out on anything ever. And even things like, you know, I had some friends whose parents bought them brand new cars when they turned 16. I like the fact that I got your car and I had to have a job. Like, I liked the fact that I had to do some of these things. I liked the fact that I had to work at 16. I guess I didn't have to, but you know what I mean? I like the fact that it was expected that you want to have more money and you want to do this, that, the other, then go get a job. I like the independence.
It taught you responsibility.
Yeah. And it wasn't a forced independence. It was not I had to work because I had to help put food on the table. It wasn't like that at all. Right. I spent it on clothes and gas money. But, you know, I appreciated those opportunities for independence. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a wonderful childhood. It was wonderful.
I love you, sweetheart.
I love you too. But Hershey Park was probably my favorite trip, because it was just me. Okay. It was just me and you. And I loved him. Don't get me wrong. I love my stepdad. But when it was just me and Mom, it was some special times. So
yeah, that was before Tim.
Yes, I know. But anyway, all right. Well,
but moms also, every day when I packed Amy's lunch, I would write an "I love you" note on her napkin. So even before she could really read, it still had, "I love you, honey. Have a good day."
I knew what it was, and I had a little smiley face on it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So even if your child gets a lunch at school or breakfast at school, put a little note in their backpack when they pull out a notebook or they pull out a book, that there's something in there that just said, "I love you, baby. Have a good day." Just something, anything.
Yeah.
You know.
And there is something like. School kids can be cruel, and so to have a really rough morning, whether it's I forgot to do my homework or I got a bad grade on something, and to like go into lunch, and you know, if you can pack your kids' lunches, like pack your kids' lunches, like it does not cost a whole lot of money for a loaf of bread and some lunch meat and some mustard or whatever, but like, because that love in that box, it was like Mom in the middle of the day. Didn't matter how my day was, I could open it up and there was some sunshine from my mom. So if you can do that with your kids, and to see some of our moms this year, like one of my moms, she sent a first day of school picture, and all her boys had lunch boxes, and it just warmed my heart, because her and I had this exact same conversation of make your kids the food. Just make it, figure it out. You know, whether you get food stamps or, you know, just you're buying groceries at the dollar store. It is what it is.
Exactly.
But It's just something special that your kids
Yes.
are gonna have, and it was a pick me up in the middle of the day from my mom.
Yes.
So, but okay, well I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I did get the charger on, so my computer's not gonna die just yet. But anyway, thank you, mommy, so much. I appreciate all of your insight and wisdom for our young moms.
And sometimes Amy would pack me a lunch, and she would put me a smiley face napkin into. So it was a two-way street. So thank you, ladies. Have a good day.
All right, and thank you guys. Those of you that are listening later, again, my name is Dr. Amy Hager from the Night Watch, and we serve our families in the Delmarva area. We have evening and overnight childcare, and yeah, we just specialize in helping our moms. So until next time, thanks so much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.